All right, guys. Welcome to the Agent Investor Podcast. I've got a special guest today, Chris Craddock. Chris, how's it going, man?
Brother, I'm excited. It's going well. Going
Nice.
well.
Nice. So Chris, what markets are you in, and kind of give us a little bit of background about yourself. I know I've got some notes about your success stories, but can you give us like the background?
Yeah. So I am in the DMV market, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and then we have an expansion team down in Richmond as well. And so, yeah, that's kind of the story where we are. My story was, I graduated college in 2000, got married, and I went on staff with an organization called Young Life. I loved Young Life. It was great. It was amazing. But I made 20 grand a year. And when my wife got pregnant in 2003, we were not going to be able to live on $20,000 a year. It just not going to work. Not in the DMV area. And
Yeah.
so I went to the library because it was before Google was kind of the fount of all information, and checked out every book they had on real estate investing and started just knocking on doors of distressed properties. And in 4 months, I made about 12 times what I made in a year. And I was like, dang, this is awesome. Long story short, I ended up buying an investment. I stopped really investing. I just bought the house we live in now, continued to do ministry. We have a lot of kids. So as we had more and more kids, the money started running out. And, I was just draining from savings in order to, keep doing ministry and doing what I love to do. At that time, I just ended up having to get back into real estate flipping. It was after the crash. So all the stuff I was doing ended up becoming like a short sale flip. And, the banks were allowing great numbers on great margins at that point in time. And then all of that changed. And at the time, I'd always led large teams when I was doing ministry stuff. And I'd gone back to school and gotten a doctorate in leadership. And so I guess it was December 2014. I'd read Gary Keller's MREA book.
Yeah.
We opened up our team, really started running December 2014, and then doing a lot of investor kind of focused stuff with our team. Between Sphere and investor stuff was really our big focus. And last year, fifth year doing business, we closed 119,800,000, so just 120. We're on pace to close between 150 and 180 this year. 409 transactions last year, close to 600 on and off market this year.
That's awesome. So it's very, very rare. I've got 4 kids. It's rare that someone joins me on the podcast that's actually beat me there. Typically, anytime I get into my family situation, I'm like, I got 4 kids, and people are like, oh my God, wow. But yeah, man, you got me beat. You got 6, so you've got a lot of mouths to feed there, for sure.
Brother,
so
we should have gotten different hobbies, man. We maybe should have gotten a TV earlier in our marriage.
you know what, like, for me, like I always tell people this, like I only do 2 things. I work and I spend time with my family. And I go to the gym. So I do 3 things. But the gym is, whatever. That's like an hour a day, and I don't even go every single day. So, to me, that's what it's all about. I don't have a lot of other things going on in my life. So I'm passionate about business. I'm passionate about my family. And so for me, that's always what I wanted. But starting, back to you. So, did you get into investing first and then become an agent first and then become an investor? How did that work?
Yeah, investing first. So flipping houses in 2003. And then in 2008, because I was in ministry, didn't make much money. I didn't have really a retirement idea. I decided I was going to buy my first rental property, and that was going to be my retirement fund. I was just going to retire and buy my thought was I'd buy a couple retirement properties and have them paid off by the time it was done. Just because, we know Social Security is not going to be around. That's not going to be a plan, right? And so, so I did that, and then was flipping short sales. I think it was like 2011, 2012 was when I kind of really got back into the flipping game, and it was all short sales. And the crazy thing is I just got an agent that I was giving a piece of the commission to just write up the contracts on all the short sales I was finding. And then, I was like, I need to get licensed. So I ended up getting licensed, but then didn't really I literally got licensed just to get commission on the short sales, because if you're flipping a deal, you don't need without a short sale, you don't need a license. You can just lower the price. But if you're flipping a deal on a short sale, the bank's going to pay the commission anyway to somebody, or they're just going to wipe it out. So, I was just like, man, might as well be me.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. I'm such a big component of the investing in agent, obviously the name of the podcast, Agent Investor, but I'm such a big proponent of like merging the two together. And, you kind of came in at it with investor first, then agent. And I think one of the things that, people, especially that are agents and going the other way, you've been an agent and you want to start getting into investing, they're worried that, their income's going to go down or they're going to take their eye off the ball. But it sounds like to me, like with you blending the two together, I mean, you're doing crazy numbers. So besides just like, earning the commission on the short sale, which is obviously a no-brainer in a short sale environment, and who knows, maybe we'll be back there sometime soon. How have you found the investing works with your agent side of the business, and does it increase your commissions and your business and grow your team and stuff like that?
Well, man, I've got like, I could talk for like 4 hours on that question right now.
I know. It's a lot. I mean, that's the thing. Like, dude, I'm in the process of actually writing a book on it. And the funny thing is, I've got like 200 pages, and I've got an editor doing the editing. And I'm saying to we're going back and forth. I'm like, this could be 1,000-page book. Like, if I wanted it to be, I'm cutting it to 200. So, and now you're cutting that into probably like a 5-minute answer. So good luck. What do you got?
Yeah. Well, one of my really good friends is a publisher. So if you ever want an introduction, I'd be happy to make an introduction if you don't have one already. But yeah. So what I would say is this: with how they combine, Grant Cardone says that the biggest problem with real estate agents is they don't buy their own product. Like, that is it. If you are a real estate agent and you're not, Gary Keller says that every great deal that hits the market slipped through an agent's hands first, right?
100%.
Why would you not buy? Why would you not buy? Like, it makes no sense. And you may say, I don't have the money to buy it. Well, I was in ministry and I didn't have the money to buy my first rental in 2008. So I called everybody I knew that had any money whatsoever and said, hey, would you want to partner with me? Because I think this would be great. And, my first partner was my mom, right? She was the one that she's like, yeah, well, the numbers make sense here. I'll do that. And it's been an awesome investment. It's been awesome. I mean, literally, we like the value of that house has almost doubled since we bought it. And it was on a 15-year note. It'll be paid off. I'm going to have almost a $600,000 house paid off in like a couple years. So like, it's unreal how, how that works. Now, the other piece is this. So one, it's awesome. The other piece is this. With our business, like my retail business, it's grown in big chunks, except right there in the middle, I think it was year 2 or 3, whatever it was, something like that. We went from 40 million to like 43 million that year. It was the smallest growth ever. And it was like, everybody was just scrapping and clawing and scraping for that next deal. And I remember hearing from somebody who said this. They're like, at some point you tap out with what you can do. And as the leader of the team and as the rainmaker, you've got to stop searching for where you can get that next deal and start looking for where you can get the next 5, the next 10, the next 50, stuff like that. And that's when I started going really big with investors and saying, okay, every investor I work with here, one, if we find a distressed sale, if I don't buy it, I can double in that sale and then I can relist it. That's 3 transactions for every one, right? Mm-hmm. And so instead of doing 1, you get 3. So if you get 5 investors that you are going to do, let's say they'll all do 3 deals a year, that's 15 deals times 3. That's 45 deals you just added to your books. Like, boom, that right there, that's a big enough business to support almost 90% of the agents worldwide, not even, I mean, and then you just grow it from there. So that's the piece there. The other piece, and I'm actually launching a coaching product, like a course on this. The other piece is real estate investors around us. I mean, I'm telling you, they invest they are willing to invest in marketing like we aren't. Their, chutzpah is crazy with what they'll spend towards marketing. And usually if they can't flip or wholesale a deal, they throw the retail leads away. And so I actually created a course because a big piece of what we're doing, I actually have this one investor that we literally send $40,000 to $50,000 a month in referral fees to this investor. It's just an unreal relationship. But here's the problem. Most of those deals, most agents treat them like a listing, like a regular listing. If you go in and treat it like a listing, you're dead. You're dead. Like, I mean, they called an investor for a reason. So you've got to know how to convert them. And that's the whole point of the class I'm teaching is how to learn how to bridge these worlds that you'd think agents and investors would go very well hand in hand together, but it's like these two separate worlds that don't tend to mix well. They don't play well with each other. And so they should, and that's kind of what we're working towards.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like me and you like have so much overlap with even just the mentality and the thought process. I mean, so one of the big mistakes I've made with generating leads and trying to convert them is, giving them to agents who do go in there and they walk in with like a traditional listing presentation, and you've definitely got to go in there with a different angle, but you hit on so many good things. It's crazy. Now, the first thing I want to dissect just quickly, and you are going to have a house that's going to be worth one investment worth $600,000 paid off within a few years. And I think the component of that that's so important for agents to understand is like most agents make between $50,000 and like $60,000 a year. Now you've been doing this for, whatever it is, 15 plus years, right? That one investment alone is going to earn you almost as much as what the traditional average agent earns every year over that 10 or 15 year period. That's one deal, right? That is insane. Like, and that's the power to me of investing is like, you don't need, like a lot of people think you need to be like this big investor, and like the stuff you're talking about, you're doing like big things. The stuff you're doing is super impressive, but you don't need to be a Chris in order to make this work for you. Like you can do some of the stuff he does on a very, very low level and still be very, very successful. So that's the first thing. Second thing that you mentioned about.
Bro, can I jump in and say one other quick thing about that?
Yeah.
Here's something that's crazy because, a lot of people look at investing, as far as what the return is with stock market versus real estate market. But here's the thing. One of the best books in the world is called Tax-Free Wealth, which if you have never read that book, it is one of the best books I've ever read in my life. If you're able to avoid taxes, and I know this is a hot topic right now because Trump, the stuff with Trump, but here's the thing. I don't want to get political at all. I don't want to, but here's the thing. If you're able to, the government, it's not about being aggressive or not aggressive in your taxes. What it is saying the government incentivizes certain behavior. And one of them is creating housing for people. So they'll give you incentive for that. Well, here's the crazy thing. When that house gets paid off for $600,000, I'm going to probably re-leverage it at 50% loan to value. I'm going to take out $300,000. And the crazy thing is when I refinance that $300,000 that I take out, that is 100% tax-free money.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So I take that out. I have that money there. It's tax-free. So when you start looking at your investments and you realize that you can bring in a lot of money tax-free, then your investments don't have to be that super sexy or super amazing, because instead of paying 37% on that or whatever, 25%, whatever your tax bracket is, you're literally getting an increase of 25 cents on the dollar, 37 cents on the dollar, every dollar you make, because you're not paying it to Uncle Sam, you're keeping that money.
Yep. Huge. Again, so many gems within what you just said. I think one of the things I want to highlight there is just that you don't need to be that good of an investor to become a millionaire. And it's like it's like a crazy thing. And the thing that's kind of like tough about it, I think, is like when we talk about like agents and how much they can make on commissions and stuff like that, like you've got to be like in the top 5% to be earning six figures. And like when you look at a brokerage, like I've got, 350 agents, and I look at my brokerage and I say like the top tier makes really, really good money. And a lot of people are below that tier, right? You don't need to be in the top tier as an investor to do really, really well. You just have to be like in the game. And one of the things that, to be in the game, you just have to take action. And one of the things about taking action that you mentioned that's a huge, like, hey, like, I can't do this because I don't have money. And you talked about the fact that you partnered with your mom. And I think a lot of us, and I want to talk a little bit more about raising capital with you, but I think a lot of people don't realize how much access to capital they really have. And I know, probably when you started, you were probably never thinking like, hey, like my mom's going to be my first partner. But we all know somebody who's got a little bit of capital, and you don't need to fund a deal 100% in order to do your first deal. There's a lot of different ways to fund deals. But for you specifically, like over the course of your investing career, like how else have you funded deals? And what advice would you give to like an agent who's like, hey, I'm broke, like I've got, $3,000 in the bank. How the heck am I going to ever do one of these deals?
Oh boy. Well, so I'm in a mastermind with a number of other investors, and just on an amazing call, dealing with like subject to properties, right? So subject to means, essentially the seller leaves their financing in place. It puts it in a land trust. It sounds so complicated, and it is a little bit complicated, but if you read about that, for any of the listeners, if you start reading about that, you realize that you can buy and assume properties in a legal way that doesn't require a 20% down payment or 15% down payment. That's one. The second one is this: if you are good at what you do, all you got to do is find deals and the money shows up. Like that is 100% the truth. I'll tell you, anybody listening here, you probably have plenty of other people, but I've said this on all the podcasts that I've been on and everything else. Listen, if you find a screamer of a deal and you don't have anybody that's willing to invest in you, look me up, find me, I'll invest with you. But you probably got 5,000 people that you could probably call and say that to. And here's the thing. So Tom, if I were to call you and say, hey man, I've got this iPhone here. It's 6 months old. I bought it for just over $1,000. Do you want to buy it from me? You'd probably say, I've got my own phone. And I said, what if I sold it to you for $100? It's in perfect condition. I mean, would you buy it?
100%. Yep.
Because you can literally put it on eBay tomorrow and sell it for $600 or whatever. Like the bottom line is, like there's value in this deal. I could sell this phone for $100 to just about anybody because there's value in the deal. The same thing's true if you find let's call it a $350,000 house that you can buy for $250 or $200 because the person wants to get out of the house for whatever reason. They want to get out of the house. You will find you will just find the deal. Like the money will show up, the people will show up, the investors will show up, and you'll be able to build your business on it. And frankly, you can buy it, let other people finance it, and you work I've got a deal right now. It's in DC where it's a massive condo conversion, and I put together a very complicated deal on it, and I kept 20% equity for myself just for putting the deal together because it was complicated. I brought a bunch of people together to do the deal. They're all going to make like $250,000. They're going to crush it, but I'm going to keep 20% of it because I put the deal together.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because anytime I think that anybody thinks like, hey, I don't have any money, I can't do a deal, whatever. And then they just hear like, you just went crazy for like 2 minutes on all these different ways that you could find and fund and finance deals. And some of them are like, technical, and you said they're complicating and stuff like that. And I think one of the key points, again, to kind of hit on that I always talk about is like, the more you learn, the more you earn. So like when people think about getting into investing, there's always that excitement, right? Like you read the Rich Dad Poor Dad, or you go to a 3-day seminar, you do all the stuff and you're like, hey, I want to invest. And then like for me, at least, I felt like, hey, I've got to take action in some way. Sometimes the action that you need to take is just to get educated. And like you might be listening to this podcast right now, and Chris just rattled off like 3 really great ways, actually 4 great ways to raise capital. And you might not do all 4 of them at once, and there might be one that you didn't understand. And of course, Chris isn't going to take the time, to go through one of his deals with us right now for 3 hours to say like how we put it together. But get educated on this stuff. The more that you understand how to do these things. And, Chris said another thing that I think is so important. That's like the iPhone, analogy. But like, who better to understand whether or not you have a deal than an agent? Like, you guys know in your local market, like if you've ever said to yourself, like, hey, like that's an awesome deal. Like, it's a deal. Like, don't let that deal go to somebody else, especially when you have it. And there's a million people that you can reach out to. And like Chris said, like worst case scenario, just Google him, find him, and he'll probably work with you. But like he mentioned, there really truly are a million people. I mean, there is so much investor demand in every single market. I don't care what market you're in. You're in, a huge metro area. I'm in a huge metro area, Boston, but it doesn't matter. There's always investors that want to do those deals. And more than anything else, like most investors, like true investors, a lot of times don't know how to find them. And we as agents, we sometimes bump into these deals without even trying, and then we say, oh, it's an awesome deal. Well, I don't have the money, so let me put it on the MLS, or let me tell an investor that I know about the deal. Well, why not partner with that investor? And I think like, the book that I'm writing that'll be out soon, it's all about like getting educated so that when you see these, things come across your plate, you kind of have the tools that you need in order to do it. The other thing that you've mentioned and alluded to is getting deals. So I know that another like big like obstacle that sometimes people say is like, hey, there are no deals in my market. It's hard to get a deal. What are some examples of the ways that you're getting deals in a market that's super hot right now?
Well, I'd say a couple. There's a handful of things. One is goes back to the class I'm teaching. You find the investors that are doing business. They're already paying all this money. They've got massive amounts of deals that are available to you. If you just go and work to partner with investors, and that's a huge source of business, because like they want to find buyers. And guess what? We have in abundance. If we're real estate agents, we've got buyers.
Yep.
If you don't have buyers, literally just a little bit, just put a little bit. I'm going to give you a little tool right now that will increase your buyer list in a massive way. Go to Facebook and just say, find any sort of deal from any investor and just say, hey, I've got a deal in Fairfax County, way under market. Who do you know that might be looking for a deal? And I promise you, you've just added to your buyer list at least 10 people. Promise you. Like people, everybody starts putting that out there. For my team, every time we get a screamer deal, I say, that we're not going to buy, or somebody on the team's not going to buy. I say, put it on Facebook. And I tell everybody in our team group me, put it on Facebook. Everybody puts it out there, and literally they're picking up not only clients for the investment side, but they're also their friends that have friends that are buying houses will tag their friends. And all of a sudden you've got massive amounts of leads. It's that genius of the and that Jim Collins talks about in Good to Great, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. And you're putting those where, in like just community Facebook pages?
No, well, see, I think the most powerful tool is in your sphere. So I just do a public post on my own wall, and then people in my own sphere of influence, oftentimes you'll see they'll tag their friends that are thinking about buying a house or looking to buy a house, or maybe they're frustrated with some agent because they put 10 offers in on houses and they just fired their agent, and they're like, man, they've got somebody off market. And so then that person, I can't tell you how many people we picked up because they fired their agent because they put 10 offers on houses, and then we find them something off market because we work with these investors that are looking to sell. I'm telling you, like, just finding a way to partner with investors is going to be one of the best tools that you'll ever find. And that goes to just how I do my life. On the disc profile, I'm a high D, a high I. I really believe doing stuff together. I believe your network will end up equaling your net worth every day of the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so interesting because it's like any one of these things that we talked about so far can dramatically increase an agent's income, whether it's like that buying that one house, paying it off 15 years later, whether it's just doing a fix and flip here and there, whether it's partnering with investors, whether it's using the off-market deals that you come across to get buyer leads. Like all of those are individual strategies that could literally, each one of those strategies can make you an extra 6 figures a year. And I'm not saying that, and Chris, I'm not even exaggerating with that. Like literally just one of those strategies, promoting the off-market deals that you have on your Facebook group and Facebook pages, you could get enough leads to do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 deals a year. And that's just one simple strategy. And that's where like the marriage of this all comes in. I mean, how many people do you have on your team?
So in the DMV area, we're at, I believe it's 14 agents, and down in Richmond, I believe we've got 8 agents.
And so you've got 20 agents, which for most teams across the country, that's big. Like most teams, like I saw you're at Keller Williams, who's a big component of teams. My brokerage, which is an independent, we're huge proponents of teams. Like if you've got a team with like 5 people, you're like, whoa, that's a big team. Like they do 100 deals a year, whatever they do. You've got 20 people. How much of that is related directly to like the fact that you're an investor and you do these investment deals as well?
Well, here's the deal. I mean, I look at it. So we're going to do, about like, I think I said about 600 on and off market deals this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like the amount of deals per agent has gone through the roof. And the crazy thing is this, I'm a huge reader. I mean, more of a listener. I listen to about a book a week through Audible. So I'm always growing. I love like the Maxwell books where he talks about being a leader, and you have to be a better leader. Every time you don't become a better leader, other people are going to just pass you and not want to be in your world anymore. And so as long as you're leveling up and making sure the world of the people that are in your world is bigger and bigger and bigger, where they're not going to hit a glass ceiling because of the fact that you haven't grown anymore, it just is huge. So the great thing here is, I mean, I literally was at a closing today of one of the girls on our team who's in her 20s, who's making a fortune, and she just bought her first house, right? Last week, there was a guy on our team who needed, before he became a real estate agent, he had been doing some stuff and he needed a loan to get rid of some tax stuff. But he's making a fortune right now. And so he's able to pay it all off right away. And I was able to help him creatively figure out a way to buy an off-market property that he had a massive, massive commission that he put in, that he used as his down payment and to pay back the loan that I gave. So bottom line is, I'm helping agents on our team build wealth, which one builds loyalty because they know that I care about them and that I care about who they are. It's not just a paycheck. It's about them winning. But also, Zig Ziglar, you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And so if I look at the agents on our team and know that I'm going to help them build generational wealth through being in the world I live in, they're going to want to stay with me because I'm helping them win and they're helping me win.
Yeah. And so again, another thing I want to point out, I love, talking to successful people because, success leaves clues, and Chris has referenced like 50 books, and, he mentioned that he's got the Audible. And one of the things that I think is like so important outside of just learning is like, how do you cram in the learning to your busy day? And I love the fact that you said read, and then you stop yourself and like, listen. Because I'm sure that you're busy as anybody else. Somebody who's running a team doing 700 deals can't have a lot of time on their hands. But you've got to be, I'm assuming, I'm going to make the big assumption here, you're probably listening to Audible like in the car, like passively, right? Like I doubt you're just kind of like sitting at home like, hey, I've got nothing else better to do than to like throw in an Audible. Maybe you'd like to do that, but you're probably like running around listening and all that good stuff, right?
Well, yeah, and what you're saying fits in so well. Like Jim Collins, Good to Great, right? He talks about the genius of the and. It's not multitasking, but the and. And actually, for me, probably the biggest leveling up that I had in my whole life was when I started a morning routine that was just every day. It was the same thing. And so every morning, part of my morning routine is that I work out. And while I'm working out, and I'm always listening to podcasts, listening to conferences, listening to books, like it's the genius of the and while doing that. Yeah, in the car, listening to other stuff, taking in knowledge, because your life grows to the extent you grow.
Yep. So I love all that. And I think like, you know, again, to get back to like another reason why I think a lot of agents don't get involved in investing is like they read the one book or they listen to the one Audible or they go to like the one 3-day seminar, they watch the one, you know, thing. And it's not about, you know, you want to make continuous progress every day, right? You don't have to make all the progress in one day. You've got to get a little bit better every single day. And so like, I think one of the things that stops a lot of people is that they go to this 3-day seminar and they think like, oh, I've got to make this big dramatic, like 1 second thing. Like I've got to do this deal like in a week or something like that. And it's not about that. It's about just getting educated. And the more educated you get, the more confident you're going to be. Now, I'm not excusing like not taking action because you certainly have to take action as well. But like, it's not about going to like one 3-day seminar, getting exciting and then doing something crazy. It's about realizing that, hey, like adding investing to my real estate business is going to dramatically increase my wealth. And I need that because guess what? I don't have Social Security. And guess what? I don't have a pension because I'm an agent. And guess what? When I quit being an agent, all of my sales income is going to go away on day one, unless you build a massive team like Chris and, you know, you can support yourself at that level. But for most people, that's not the case. So you've got to get that passive income. You've got to buy some rental properties. You've got to get other income coming in. So you hit on so much, but now what would you say, like if you had an agent sitting in front of you that, you know, was doing pretty well, you know, they were selling, you know, 5 to 30 houses a year, they're making a living, they're kind of happy, and they're thinking about getting involved in investing, like what advice would you give them? What would you say to that person if they're like, hey, Chris, like, should I do this?
Yeah, I'd say this: perfect inaction is much, much worse than perfect action. So let's do it. Just do it, you know, and don't sit around and think, oh, what if I invest in the wrong thing? What if we're at the top of the market? What if, you know, just go and do it, you know, make the investment. You know, at the end of the day, you're never going to see a grandfather. Find me any grandfather that ever drives around and says, man, I am so glad I sold that house 40 years ago. It's worth less than it was when I sold it for. That doesn't happen. Yep. Just buy it and hold on to it and get it done. And then, I mean, we can get like, you can get really nerdy when you start getting into the tax advantages of a professional real estate agent and everything else on that. But I would just say to start, just decide you're going to do it and then go out and do it. You know, you make that decision that I'm going to buy something before the end of the year. I've got 4 months. I'm going to find something in the next 4 months. I don't care what it is. I'm going to do it. And you just make that commitment, burn the ships and tell everybody you're buying something so that you look like an idiot if you don't. And, you know, and then just go buy something.
Yeah. I think like the perfect inaction thing is a good thing because you're going to make mistakes. Like it's like if you're an agent right now and a new agent, they're thinking about a career in real estate and they're like, oh, I don't know if I should get in because like, you know, I don't know if I'm going to do everything perfect. It's the same thing with investing. Like you're going to make some mistakes, but the good thing about investing to me is like, it's so favored. And you mentioned tax advantages and you mentioned all this other stuff, like mistakes, like making mistakes, you invest in the wrong property and you hold it for 40 years, you're still going to look like a genius 40 years later. Even if it was the wrong house, the wrong price, the wrong location, the wrong everything, you're still going to look great. So you're going to make some mistakes. I think the more educated you get, you know, you're going to make a little bit less of them. But I mean, I don't know about you, Chris. I make mistakes every single day. Like I've got a huge rental property portfolio. I do a ton of investing. Like I've been doing this for 15 years. I still make mistakes every single day.
Right. 100%. Yeah. I mean, and that's it. But I mean, one of the core values we have for our Redux group, you know, just on our wall, just core values is that we're quick learners, right? You know, when you make the mistake, it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you time. It's going to be a pain. But here's the deal. Be a quick learner. Don't pay the stupid tax and learn the same lesson over and over again. Just learn the lesson and then progress forward. I mean, that's just it, you know?
I love it. So I want to thank you for coming on today. And I know you said you've got some training, some coaching that you do. if one of our listeners wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah. So, you know, on my website, just chriscraddock.com is an easy way. Uncommon Real Estate, the Facebook group. That's just also another way. I mean, you post anything, any questions, anything in there. I'll answer any questions anybody ever posts on the wall. And, you know, you can also jump on Instagram at Craddock, Craddrock. You know, DM me there. That's fine too. But yeah, no, any of those ways, you know, I'll tell you one of the things I didn't say earlier, and I'll just say briefly is this. One of the main reasons why I think I grew as fast as I grew was because I was relentless about seeking out people that were further, like a couple steps ahead of me.
Yep.
And it was amazing because I would call these people that were top in the nation at what they were doing, and they took my call and they talked to me for a few minutes, and then they talked to me more. Now, I will say this, like what they always said to me is like, I'll talk to you, I'll give you advice, but if I give you advice and you call me back and you didn't do anything I told you to do, like, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, you know? And it was like that kind of thing, but they were all like that. And I'm always about returning the favor and, you know, being available to people that want to learn and that are hungry and really, you know, want to do it.
Yeah. And it's funny because you say that, like, and it's like you're shocked that somebody would take your call at that level. But then, like, once you start to kind of get there yourself, you're like, you know what? Like, what's more exciting than like somebody who's just getting into it that's passionate about it? Because it's like, you know, you can tell in your enthusiasm right now, like, you love talking about this stuff. And I'm sure, like, not everybody in your world does love talking about this stuff. So you get somebody and you're like, man, I was there 10, 15 years ago. Like, if I knew this, this, and this, imagine like what I could have done and all that. So it's always fun stuff. I definitely appreciate you coming on. You definitely overcame, like, if anybody says like, I can't do it because I've got X amount of kids, like, you crushed that objection. So thank you for coming on, Chris. And again, you know, just featuring another case study of a successful agent investor. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.